Raising kids in Canada can be very expensive, and that's why this is one of the most important topics. I wish someone had told me about these things before I moved here. So basically, the Canadian government tries to help you as much as possible to raise your kids here. And by this, I don't mean just immigrants and newcomers. These provisions are available for practically everyone. If you have kids in Canada, depending on their age and your family income, the Canadian government gives you a certain amount of money every month just to look after your kids. You will get a maximum of $6,400 a month per child up to the age of 6 and $5,400 yearly per child from 6 to 17 years of age. Now, this income is completely tax-free, and your household income and the number of children you have play a big role in determining the amount of money that you will actually receive. For example, if you earn around $30,000 per year between you and your spouse, and you have a 4-year-old toddler, you might receive the whole $6,400, which amounts to approximately $530 a month. You can calculate how much you will actually receive by going on the Canada.ca website. This amount actually helps a lot because you can take care of a lot of your child's expenses such as winter jackets, clothing, baby food, toys, diapers, etc. Basically, what I mean to say is that you would not need to budget separately for your kids. I'm pretty sure the Canadian childcare benefit can take care of it all. When both parents work, they need to put their child in daycare so that someone can look after them. And daycares are pretty expensive here. I recommend finding a daycare that is either close to home or close to the workplace of at least one parent so that you can get there on time in case of an emergency. And another reason for this is that most daycares charge you by the minute if you're late in picking up your children. And if you're stuck in traffic one day, you can end up paying in the hundreds. Usually the rate for daycare is around $45 to $50 per day, depending on where you live and whether the daycare is licensed. Now, most daycares don't operate during the weekends, which means you're typically putting your child in a daycare for around 22 days a month. That means you're paying approximately $1,000 a month per child just for daycare. This can be a huge dent in your pocket, but the Canadian government helps you out here too. But I'll get to that in a minute. Let me first explain to you the kind of daycares that are available in Canada. There are two types of daycares in Canada, licensed and unlicensed. The unlicensed ones are usually much cheaper and mostly operate out of homes. You can expect to pay around $700 to $800 a month. They don't have a standard format, and most of what they do is just look after your kids while you're away at work. Which means, for all you know, your kids are probably watching TV all day. Some home daycares do have a standard format. They do teach your children stuff and do have activities planned, but you need to ask these questions and review them first. I personally recommend to go with a licensed daycare. Even though they are a lot more expensive, the good thing is that they have a standard format. They are regulated by the government. They have activities planned and even teach your children many things. In fact, they would probably not get a license if they didn't do all these things. Now, my kids' daycare has no TV, and we have a WhatsApp group of parents where they share photos and activities done throughout the day. Another plus point of these daycares is that most licensed daycares are eligible for daycare subsidies. The only downside is that you might not find that many licensed daycares near where you live or work, which is why you might not have any other option than putting your child in an unlicensed or unregulated daycare. But whatever you do, make sure you research the daycare well. See what people are saying about it. Talk to the parents that have their children there or have had their children there in the past. Ask them about their experiences because your child is going to be spending a major part of their day there. So make sure you research the place as well as possible. Also, it will not hurt researching multiple places nearby just to compare the kind of services they provide. Apart from giving you childcare benefits, the Canadian government also helps you out by giving you daycare subsidies depending on your income. The only requirement here is that both parents need to work. So you can't look for work unless someone looks after your child. You don't get paid for daycare subsidies because you're not working. I know, it's a vicious circle. So the best thing to do here is suck it up and pay out of your pocket until you are eligible for the subsidy. So each region has its own subsidy brackets. Now I live in the Peel region, which is Mississauga and Brampton, and this is what you could be looking at paying according to your household income. As you can see, the government of Canada doesn't give you money as part of daycare subsidies. In fact, you're just required to pay less money according to your household income, and the rest of it is paid by the local government directly to the daycare. As of October 2019, when this video was made, the government of Canada is providing a certain amount of subsidies no matter your income or whether both the parents are working or not. I'm currently paying around $550 a month to my kids' licensed daycare, and I did not have to go through any documentation or process to apply for this. For childcare benefits, you have to go through a certain documentation and it takes your province around 11 weeks to register you. But don't worry, you get paid for those 11 weeks too. For daycare subsidies, the process is quicker and easier. You just apply online and you get registered within 3 to 4 weeks. Now that we've got the major topics out the way, let's talk about schooling. So the minimum age to enter your child in a school here is 5 years old, and it is mandatory to get your children schooled. They can usually start kindergarten at the age of 5, which is September 1st after your 5th birthday. And it is free to study in public schools here. Don't worry, the public schools of Canada are very competent and the education provided by them is just as good. But I would still recommend you research a few schools in your area before you register your child in one. The only cost you might have is for supplies, which is books, stationery, activities, outings, and so on. But that will not amount to much. You may also have to pay for school bus fees, but you might not be eligible for the school bus service if you live within a 2-kilometer radius of the school. If you have a lot of money to throw away, then sure, send your kids to private school. You will receive a different level of education here, but personally I don't think it's required at that age because it's big money that we're talking here. You can expect to pay around $50,000 a year just for private education. Instead, what I recommend is save up that money, invest it somewhere until your kid is ready to go to a good college or a university and spend it there. You are usually required to send your kids to a school that are in the same area that you live. If you want your kid to go to a different school, which is in a different area, you would have no option other than actually staying at that particular area, which means you might have to buy or rent there if that's the case. So this is the grading system of schools in Canada. From age 2 to 5 is preschool or kindergarten. From age 6 to 11 is grade 1 to 6 or elementary school. From age 12 to 14 is grade 7 to 9 or junior high. Age 15 to 18 is grade 10 to 12 or senior high. Now you can legally quit school after you're 16, but that is usually discouraged as most students stay until they are 18 years old. School holidays are usually posted well in advance so that parents can plan their vacations and holidays. And the Canadian school year usually starts in the first week of September and ends in June. So 10 months. Now these 10 months are divided into quarters or terms or semesters. The usual elementary school timings are 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. with an hour for lunch, and some even have 2 15-minute breaks just to allow students to let off steam and so that some teachers can find aspirin. High school timings are usually 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. with the extracurricular activities and sports scheduled after school hours. Now most schools operate from Monday to Friday. Make sure you get your children immunized for any diseases before they join school. Contact your family doctor for all the advice that you need. I recommend you put your child in at least one curricular activity or a sport. In fact, if you have small kids, get them to learn swimming. There are many community centers in every area that have activities and sports that your kid can learn. Some are free and some charge a minimal amount. So I hope this gave you a clear idea of what you could expect when you come here with your children. Please make sure to like, share and subscribe and comment down below of any other worries that you have for your children.